All right, so this is module 9. We're going to talk about, I'm going to talk briefly about data collection in terms of logging tools and collecting different types of logging and what that means. This is going to be a very brief conversation. There's a lot of material to read, some videos to watch, but most importantly, there's a hands-on activity which will actually allow you to see what I mean by logging materials. Okay. So I'm actually going to show my screen here, and I'm going to show you what I mean by logging. So on our computers are capturing logs. So on a Mac, we have this app here called Activity Monitor. And as our computer is running, this is like the top command. We can see things that are running here. We can see how much memory they're being using, energy usage, things like that. Okay. Now, if we're trying to troubleshoot a problem, we also have things called a log. So on our host, this applies to Linux or Mac, either one, we're going to have a log directory. Okay. And so by default on both, it's var log. Okay. So if I make it a little bigger, we can see that we have some files here. Okay. And we can just look at, system.log. And if we look at the last 50 lines, we can see on my Mac here, there is a process, and there's a line by line. There is a date, a time, my host name, the process involved, and in this case, an error message. Okay. And there's a lot of different things in here. There's a lot of noise. Okay. So the signal to noise ratio is very high here. Okay. It would be very difficult for us to go through, if we didn't know what we were looking for, to find anything useful out of this log. It would be literally like going through a haystack and moving around the hay until we found out, where the needle was lying in that big bundle of hay. Okay. So there's got to be a better way. And just keep in mind, this is one system. If I log into my host here, my Linux host, oops. Okay, if I log into my Linux host, same thing, var log, and I have some messages here as well. And this one's called syslog. And I can see there's a bunch of information here, but I don't really know what it is. Okay. So when you do the activity, you'll get what I mean by what this particular bit is. Okay, because I've enabled a logging tool called Metric Beat, and it's capturing metrics for my system like CPU utilization, etc. But again, it's so much data in here, it's overwhelming. Okay? So when you go through and do the activity for this week, which is ungraded, but if you do more than what I'm asking for, and read the instructions for further details, but if you do more than what I'm asking for, you can submit that in week 15 for extra credit. You will not be able to submit it until week 15 though. Okay. So you won't see the extra credit box until then. But at that point, you'll be able to submit it. This is a lot of data, and it's collecting a lot of different things here. It's overwhelming for you to be able to go through and look at your logs all the time. Okay. Now, this is one host. My computer's another host. Now let's just imagine you're in a cloud environment where you have hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of hosts. You can't possibly look at all this information. And when there's a problem, you can't go through 5,000 different systems and look at the logs. It's just not feasible. So what do you do? Well, I'm going to show you what you can do. Okay. In the activity that you do for this week, which again is separate than your regular homework, this is just for you to learn, you are going to set up the ELK or Elasticsearch stack. Okay? And when you do that, you're going to end up with a user interface in your web browser that allows you to see that same log data, but easily search and filter it for things. So I could filter by timestamp and only look at things between a certain time if I know what time something happened. I could look for a host name. I could look at, any of these other fields. Okay? And I can also do searches, just like a Google search, but for all the logs across all of my systems. Okay? And in the case of the example of what I've got here is I have metrics about my system utilization. Okay? So you'll be able to go through and set up your own ELK stack and graphical interface. Okay? And you're going to do that, you're going to do that here with the instructions that I provided. Okay? So if we kind of skip down to those right here, and you're going to see that this is a multi-step activity. There's a lot of things that you need to do. You need to read it carefully. Okay? Now, you're going to follow the instructions for your Linux distribution, and I'm going to do a separate demo video where I actually walk through this for Ubuntu and Debian. Okay? I am not going to walk through the Red Hat instructions. Remember, I told you that I typically use Ubuntu. So if you're using Red Hat, you're going to follow these instructions. Okay? But I'm only going to record a video for Ubuntu. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to set up Elasticsearch, and there's a prerequisite to install Java, and this is how you do it. You're going to go ahead and set up an ngrok account, and the reason why I have you do an ngrok is because ngrok is a tool that allows you to access your web services through the internet without having to worry about figuring out how to set up a firewall and a public IP address, and then what if you forget to shut it down and someone hacks in and gets into your Google account or your AWS account. Okay, by doing this instead, we avoid that problem. Okay, it will allow you to set up a tool that runs on your Linux machine and produces a reverse proxy out to the internet, runs a service, and then allows you to connect back through a URL that it will set up. Okay. Speaking of which, I strongly recommend that you just do this with Google, but you can do it with AWS as well. It might be a little easier to just get it done through Google. But go through, set up Elasticsearch. You're going to set up an ngrok account. You're going to download it to your Linux VM. Okay. Then you're going to test to make sure that Elasticsearch is running. You'll get a result like this. I will go through these instructions in more detail. Then you have to download Kibana, install that. Okay. You have to launch Kibana. Then you have to go launch ngrok. Okay. And you'll get ngrok, this details that you need for ngrok from your ngrok account in your web browser. Once you do that, you're going to get MetricBeat set up. You're going to enable it, and then you're going to go connect to ngrok. So you're going to run ngrok, and then you're going to get a URL back. It's going to be some random string.ngrok.io. You're going to go to that in your web browser on your regular computer. And that will connect to your server running in Google or AWS. Now, once you've done that, you need to explore the UI. Okay? And you can just kind of poke around, use this guide as a reference if you get lost. Okay? And again, the instructions for the Red Hat distributions are down below here. There are additional steps. Okay? There is no Java that's ready to go for these platforms. You have to go download it, extract it, install it, run it, set up your path, etc. It's a little bit extra work for Java on the Red Hat distributions. Okay, But aside from that, the rest of these steps are going to be very similar. Not identical, because again, you're on a different platform, but they'll be very similar. All right? So you're going to go through and do that activity. Ungraded, but if you do beyond that, so metric beat is required. If you do additional beats, and there's details on the website where you go download the metric beat from. But if you choose to do other things other than metric beat, and there's a whole bunch of other ones, I forget which ones are out there, then you can get extra credit. The extra credits at the bottom here, the ones you can choose from are audit beat, file beat, function beat, heartbeat, journal beat, and packet beat. Okay, I'm not going to help you with the extra credit though. If you choose to do it, you need to figure it out. Okay? This is an opportunity for you to get some extra credit, and as such, you need to go figure out what you need to do for that. Okay, the box will not be available until I get Module 15 available, so you won't be able to submit it until then. Okay? The extra credit will be worth 2 points or 2%. Now, let's go through some of this material here. So you will learn how to use the ELK or Elasticsearch stack. You should also learn about general Linux systems logging. There's an article for you to read about that. Okay. You'll read about the ELK stack. You'll read about Splunk, which is a commercial alternative to the ELK stack. Okay. Incidentally, ELK and Splunk both allow you to see your business intelligence data. Okay. So you have a lot of unstructured data throughout your environment, logs, etc., applications, systems, databases, etc. You can make use of that business intelligence data with these tools. Okay. And then you'll also learn about GCP Cloud Monitoring and AWS CloudWatch. Because of our limited student accounts, I don't recommend that you go and use those. They will eat up your credit very fast. So we're going to use ELK instead, but you might want to learn GCP and AWS cloud tools. Okay? Just watch the videos and that should be good enough for now. Okay? Again, you need to do the logging activity even though it's not ungraded, or even though it's ungraded. Okay? It's going to help you out. Okay? It also allows you to understand the business intelligence. Okay? Now, I have not posted the demo yet. I will post the demo video as well out there. So there will be just this quick video and then the demo where I go through the logging activity. Okay?